Thank you all. Kindly be seated. Honorable Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Soipe Tuya. PSs that will be attending, Kenya Space Agency Director General, all space agency represented, UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, all space experts, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Karibuni, Kenya. Whether you're joining us in person or whether you're joining us online, we are delighted to host you in Nairobi, Kenya, for this historical event. We will be having over 80 space experts joining us from 35 countries across 6 continents. Hosting this 5th Space for Women expert meeting in Africa is very significant, and it's a huge milestone to really show how we have advanced in the space sector. I am your moderator, Njeri Maina from DEN Limited, a woman that is very passionate about Africa, technology, and space. This year's theme is integrating women in the space activities and solution. We have just 20 to 25% of space workers globally. Women, we really need to arise and be able to take the opportunities in space and STEM fields. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Artu Hola Maini, the Director of the United Nations Office for Outer Space, for her welcoming remarks. Welcome.
Your Excellency, Cabinet Secretary Tuya, Your Excellency, Director General Kipgoskay, respected Space for Women Network participants, and all of our guests who are joining us online as well. It is truly my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th Space for Women expert meeting taking place for the very first time here in Africa. It's about time. We are able to convene here thanks to the very kind and generous support of our dear and long-standing partner, the Kenya Space Agency. Thank you. I want to start my remarks this morning with a very personal reflection. I came to this office just over a year ago, as many of you know, and I was thinking, wow, now I get to work with the United Nations. I get to work in the organization that is meant to help improve the state of the world. Poverty, the wars, the climate crisis, the suffering, the differences between rich and poor, so many things which are affecting the world right now. And when I thought about that, and I thought about the challenge that it presents for the United Nations and for UNUSA, our tiny role in that as such a small office, I honestly thought, do we really have the bandwidth to spend time worrying about how many women are in leadership positions in the space sector? Isn't that a first world problem? That's what I thought. It has taken me quite some time to get my head around this, And there was probably a big trigger moment for me, which I would share with you. It's to do with the power of storytelling. I can tell you so many impact stories about how satellites have transformed people's lives, how they have literally saved lives at the times of disaster. And these are valuable stories to tell because there are always unmet needs who need to hear about these stories and about the possibilities that satellite offers and space technologies offer. But I've realized from my personal experience that if, as a woman, you are blessed to be in a leadership position, telling your own story can also inform. It can also inspire, give courage, and drive change. It can reassure other women and girls that they can do it too. I was invited to talk about myself in an interview before I joined the United Nations, to talk about my journey. I really didn't want to do it. It felt narcissistic. But after I did it, I received messages from 2 girls, one in Pakistan and one in India, who said, "We were so inspired to hear from you. You gave us the courage to stand up to our parents, to stand up to the pressure of arranged marriages, and to pursue the career ambitions that we have." I had no idea that by talking about myself, that I could actually impact somebody else's life in that way. Now that I know, I want to do it more, and I want all of us to do it more. So that's a call to action on you here today. Life in so many parts of the world is hard. It is really hard right now. Circumstances of poverty, lack of opportunities, societal pressures, restrictive cultures, patterns that have embedded themselves into our society over years and generations. I had that too. Too much education was considered a bad thing when I was growing up, and I grew up in the UK, you know? So no matter where you live, it's easy to see how these kind of obstacles, they take away the dreams from girls. We give up our dreams. We think, oh, it's too hard. We're never going to get there. And I think that's what we have to work on. Girls, they mold too easily to meet other people's expectations. How many parents do you think expect their children, be they girls or boys, to actually work in the space sector or even become leaders in the space sector? Not very many, I can tell you. I certainly didn't expect to be working in the space sector myself. My parents didn't expect me to end up in it. Women and mothers are fighters. They are nurturers. They can bear unbearable pain, and when things get tough, they are resourceful. They can find incredible stamina and heart to keep going and to keep others going around them. The world is going through some terrible time, and we need women with all of their skills and their strengths to work alongside their male counterparts. And we need them in leadership positions, not only in space, but all over the world. This is why UNUSA's Space for Women program matters. This is why gender equality matters. And it matters that we have brought this to Africa. I know people arrive in Africa and start giving lots of facts and figures about the potential of growth that is here in Africa. I'm not going to do that. But there is one thing that I do want to note, and that is that more than half of the world's population growth from now until 2050 is foreseen to happen in Africa. And if Africa truly has the fastest growing and youngest population of any continent, then how many of them are and will be women? I suspect that the number of women in Africa is huge. And if we believe what the experts tell us about the growth of Africa's space industry in the coming years, then that should mean that Africa is sitting on a very powerful lever to accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals and advance Africa's ambitions in space. So we have brought UNUSA's Space for Women expert meeting to Africa to a new audience with purpose and with intent. And we see it as an essential pillar of UNUSA's Africa strategy as well. Research shows that what affects gender equality the most is the everyday socioeconomic status of women. Women and girls have for too long been seen as less economically valuable to society and just good for raising children. But by giving them an education and training, we elevate their status in society. We help break social and cultural barriers, And we give them essential tools that help them become financially independent so that they and their families can become more resilient, especially during crises, which are increasing all over the world. Space-based systems are so important as we witness the devastating changes that are happening to our planet. My friend, the Kenyan ambassador, Maurice Makolu, in Vienna, he always tells me that the majority of farmers in Kenya are women. And they're confronted with the issues of food security, water management, traveling huge distances to sell their crops, fighting illegal activities on the way. Do they all have the space solutions that they need and the capacity and the training that they need to use them to make their lives easier? The Space for Women program is diverse in what is achieved so far. And with the fifth edition, we wanted to bring our work down to this grassroots level. It is not just about studying maths and science and university and getting jobs in space. It's as much about helping those women farmers learn how to access and use space data as it is about starting young with STEM education in schools, especially for rural and isolated children. Education, especially for girls and women, goes to the very heart of sustainable development. It empowers them to lift their families and their communities out of poverty. And when that happens at scale, it can transform the socioeconomic status of the nation as a whole. But despite all the goodwill behind this call, there is still an important gap in gender equality. In the last years, therefore, we have worked with our partners, like the Republic of Korea and Canada, on different issues, and we will be sharing some of the results of that work with you. You will hear about the findings of our landmark study conducted with the generous support of Korea on gender in the global space workforce, published back in July this year. And it shows that women still globally represent only 30% of public sector space roles in organizations. The numbers are even lower when it comes to leadership roles. But while we have our work cut out for us, we have also worked on tools to help us improve that. Together with Canada, we produced the Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit, also published earlier this year. And it has helpful tips and concrete examples of what space organizations can really do to bridge the gap. We must continue with all of these efforts because this is a persistent challenge. Gender biases, limited access to education, policies and attitudes that hold women and girls back, lack of mentorship. All of these are obstacles that are not going to go away with the wave of a magic wand. We will not wake up one morning to a new world with a blanket of change draped over us. We need to weave that blanket together by sharing our experiences, our best practices, and the work that so many of you have done and that we will hear about in the coming days. I've spoken enough. I thank you for coming all the way to Nairobi, to the United Nations here in Nairobi. And I look forward not only to hearing your stories, but exploring what we can do to scale and replicate them across Africa and across all of the world. The challenge is huge, but we can inform, we can inspire, and we can lay the building blocks of change. And we can make incremental changes that together will measure up to a huge change. Let's do it. I close by thanking Brigadier Kipkoskei, Mercy Kamau, and Joy from all of the amazing team at the Kenya Space Agency for having welcomed us and for having worked with us to make this a reality in Africa. And I'm confident that this meeting will bring notable results. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Holler, and welcome, PS Dr. Coril. Kindly let's turn our attention to the screen for a video message from Ms. Stephanie Duran, the Vice President of Policy, Communication, Strategy Planning.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour,
of Canadian Space Agency.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. I'm Stephanie Duran, Vice President of Policy, Communications, and Strategic Planning. Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I'm Stéphanie Durand, Vice President of Policy, Communications, and Strategic Planning at the Canadian Space Agency. Let me begin by extending a warm thank you to the Kenya Space Agency for their work on Space for Women. In particular, for hosting the 5th Space for Women expert meeting. They are helping to ensure that we continue to advance gender equality throughout the global space sector. Diversity and inclusion is a core priority at the Canadian Space Agency and across Canada's public service. It was such an honor for us to work alongside UN-USA to host the 4th Space for Women expert meeting last year in Montreal. We had the chance to bring together people from around the world who shared their unique experience, knowledge, and expertise to help develop the first gender mainstreaming toolkit for the space sector. Women continue to be underrepresented in space. But if we want to go further in the cosmos and leverage space to solve big challenges here on Earth, we need all of humanity's talent. Every unique contribution helps us reach for the stars. And the Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit is a valuable resource for that. It offers inspiration and examples of successful gender equality initiatives happening worldwide. We are so happy to share our own experience with you today. And you have CSA's Amira Ali, who will be sharing more on this topic. Space for Women participants and experts, you have important work ahead of you. We hope this meeting inspires you on how you can use the toolkit in your own work and in your own contexts. More importantly, we hope it empowers voices across the world to ensure that the benefits of space reach everyone. I wish you all a productive and insightful journey. Thank you, merci et à la prochaine.
Thank you very much. We have our very own Brigadier Hilary Kipps-Kosgei, Director General and CEO of the Kenya Space Agency, who will address us and invite the distinguished guests. Welcome.
Thank you very much. The Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Honorable Rosalinda Soipan-Tuya, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Kori Singoe, the Director, United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs, Ms. Arti Hola Maini, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the KSA Board of Directors present, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Permit me, Madam, at the very onset, to appreciate the presence of the beautiful ladies and great minds from across the world who have gathered here for this conference. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for us at the Kenya Space Agency to welcome you all to this 5th expert meeting being held here in Nairobi. We express our gratitude to UN-USA for choosing Kenya as the host for this year's conference, and we hope that you will all enjoy your stay in Nairobi over the next few days. The Space for Women Expert Meeting series has become a cornerstone in promoting the participation of women and girls in space-related activities, and through this conference, we will hear voices from diverse regions across the world on the efforts to mainstream women participation in STEM and in space activities. And we are glad that this meeting also provides a unique opportunity to hear voices of women from the African continent on their contributions to greater access and participation of women and girls in space-related activities. In the interest of time, I would have liked to speak a little bit about the Kenya Space Agency, but because we are running behind time, I will just mention that the Kenya Space Agency is tasked with the mandate to nurture the growth of the space sector in Kenya. And in our approach, we give it a very holistic look, looking at policy, legal and regulatory framework, all the way to enhancing utilization and development of national space capability. At the agency, we are committed to fostering gender inclusivity, and as a matter of fact, women make up 45% of our board of directors. And at the staff level, we are still a little low at 33% of all our staff being women. However, for staff who are below 35 years of age, and this is the brighter side, who represent the future of our agency, women account for 45% of the numbers, and we are actively working to grow these numbers as an affirmative action. We also provide leadership and growth opportunities for women within the organization, ensuring that they take on decision-making roles and contribute to shaping the agency's future. Also, as an agency, we have an active space education and mentorship outreach initiative to primary and secondary schools, which seeks to promote STEM education and raise awareness of the opportunities and careers in space sciences and technologies and the foundational subjects that will enable them pursue future careers in space-related fields. The outreach has targeted mixed schools or girls' schools as a way of changing the dynamic and inspiring the next generation of female space scientists and engineers. We appreciate the technical support we have received from our valuable partners, UNOSA, towards organization of this conference. We also acknowledge the technical support we have received from the Canadian Space Agency through sharing of ideas and conducting a capacity building training for the moderators and rapporteurs that will be involved in facilitating this conference. We cannot forget to thank our gracious host, the United Nations Office in Nairobi, for the conferencing facilities. Let me end by saying that together we can create an inclusive space sector that reflects the full spectrum of human talent and potential. We look forward to fruitful engagements and useful outcomes from this Nairobi meeting. Madam CS, please allow me to kindly invite a space champion and a great advocate for open data governance in this country, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Corey Singwaye, to make a few remarks and invite you to officially open this expert meeting. P.S. sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my brother, Brigadier Kip Kosgei, Cabinet Secretary for Defense, a wonderful lady, Honorable Soipan Tuya, Ati Hola Main, Director, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, Director General of UNON-O, High Representative, and many other colleagues here gathered. Allow me first to welcome you to Nairobi. Karibuni sana. This space where you're at is, of course, the United Nations offices. It was built in the 70s, and so I think it's beginning to show some aging. And I'm very happy to say that, and I wish Bangura was here, that the United Nations has been very gracious to support a revamping of this facility to the tune of $300 million. For the reason that Nairobi is the only multilateral capital of the United Nations in the global south. And in the interest of making the United Nations more equitable, I think the time has come for these offices and the UN presence here, which houses UNEP, UN Habitat, and many other agencies of the United Nations, to be considerably upgraded. And so 5 years from today, when you come back to Nairobi, I think you'll be sitting in a much better space so that you can be able to have even deeper conversations. I'm honored by your invitation to celebrate the incredible contribution of space exploration to humanity, and particularly the contributions of women in space agencies worldwide. To many Kenyans, space exploration is still very abstract, very far removed from day-to-day realities, and local events such as this one brings the much-needed understanding of just how wide the applications of space exploration are. They remind us that household applications, including GPS and remote sensing, climate tracking, and agricultural optimization, exist largely because of space technologies. Excellencies, space exploration represents the very best of humanity. The courage to go beyond our tiny planet, the creativity and innovation of outer space travel, and the breaking of barriers. The reminder of our minute place in the universe is humbling, yet humanity's ability to explore outer space is indeed awe-inspiring. Yet it is against this humbling, awe-inspiring background that we get to firsthand see the insidious nature of gender discrimination. Many industries within this sector exhibit gender imbalance, and space science is no exception. It's therefore my hope that the efforts of Space for Women Mentorship Program and combined policy efforts globally to increase the number of women and girls in STEM fields will ensure that women break this glass ceiling. It is for this reason that I wish to applaud the Kenya Space Agency, which has recognized that women cannot defy the gravity of gender discrimination without institutional change. The agency as an organization consists of 33% of women, and the Kenya government initiated a dramatic shift in its cultural attitudes around gender with the enactment of Article 27.8 of our Constitution that mandates that no more than 2/3 of appointed public body members can be from the same gender. For space to remain a field that represents the best of humanity, we must support our women in STEM. Patriarchal ideologies should not stand in the way of scientific progress. Let us all remember that space presents a chance for humanity to ascend, to explore new frontiers, even those frontiers that have imprisoned our minds for a long time. Kenya looks forward to continued partnership and cooperation in the elimination of gender imbalance in the space industry, as well as in other industries, and most importantly, the improvement of Kenya's space capabilities. Allow me then to end there and to have the honor and pleasure of inviting to the stage the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Defense, Soipan Tuya. Let's put our hands together.
Thank you very much, my brother. The Principal Secretary, State Department for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Singoye, the Director, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, Ms. Arti Holamaini, who I'm glad is really our sister here in Kenya. The Vice President, Policy, Communications, and Strategic Planning at the Canadian Space Agency, Ms. Stephanie Durant, who I believe might be following us online. The Director General of the Kenya Space Agency, Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Kenya Space Agency Board of Directors, who might be part of this gathering, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. You say hatujambo. Hamjambo. I'm really glad to be here today, and I want to thank the great minds that have spoken ahead of me, and our sister Arti for sharing her personal journey and story. I wish I had fashioned myself to share my story this morning, but nevertheless, there could be another opportunity to do that, because as Director Arti says, sharing our stories carries quite a bit of inspiration, especially in the theme for today's discussions. And it inspires without seeming narcissistic, you know, like she said. So every opportunity she has challenged us to do through her rallying call for us to share our experiences, to share our stories. And I would urge all of us to take that as take home in terms of inspiring each other. It therefore gives me great pleasure to join you at this auspicious opening ceremony for the 5th edition of the Space for Women Expert Meeting. As a country, we are extremely delighted to host this important international meeting on our soil, the first time it is being held in Africa. It is really an honor for us. I take this early opportunity to warmly welcome our guests and visitors to our beautiful country, Kenya, and to Nairobi in particular. I hope you will spare time to sample the wide variety of our hospitality offerings, our rich cultural diversity, and the authentic Kenyan cuisine, among others. Please find time to visit our nearby national park, the only national park in the world within 5 miles of a major capital city. Please don't miss that experience. And you will be able to have a first-hand experience of our wildlife heritage in their natural habitats and not zoos. And we always like to warn our guests that the national park is not fenced. So if you happen to meet, well, it's fenced, but we have occasional sneak out of animals from the national park. You might be in an experience where you find lions in the tarmac road along Mombasa Road. Always remember that they are not domestic. At this very onset, I thank the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs for deeming it fit to host the 5th edition of the expert meeting in this part of the world. This year's conference and theme is very befitting and goes a long way in raising awareness and inspiring women and girls around the globe, and the Global South in particular, to take interest in and participate more in space activities and the space economy, and leverage on the opportunities therein, including the development of solutions to many challenges that we face in our world today. I also thank the Board of Management of the Kenya Space Agency for co-hosting this important meeting with UN-USA. Distinguished delegates, Kenya acknowledges the pivotal role that the space economy plays in driving global socio-economic development through fostering innovation, driving new technologies, creating high-value jobs, and enabling essential services and data-driven decision support for the improvement of the well-being of society. We all know that space technologies enable our understanding of Mother Earth and provide critical applications which support our well-being as humans here on Earth. We also appreciate that the global space economy is set to grow to $1 trillion by 2035. And we all need to collaborate more for fair participation and inclusion of all in the upcoming strong space economy. As a developing and emerging spacefaring nation, Kenya seeks to develop space capabilities and its space economy to foster national socio-economic development, focusing on space technologies and applications in agriculture and food security, environmental monitoring, natural resource management, land and physical planning, climate change monitoring and mitigation, and disaster management, among others. To coordinate and promote the development of Kenya's space capabilities and nurture the growth of the domestic space sector, the Kenyan government established the Kenya Space Agency in 2017. And the Kenya Space Agency is one of the semi-autonomous government agencies within my ministry. KSA has made great strides in enhancing utilization of space technologies across government entities and developing capabilities in Earth observation downstream applications, as well as space systems engineering, leading to the launch of 2 satellites and development of significant ground infrastructure. As a member of the Community of Nations, Kenya, in international cooperation that delivers, Kenya believes in international cooperation that delivers win-win outcomes and mutual benefits for all. That is why we greatly value partnership between KSA and UN-USA. That has gone a long way in developing KSA capacity and Kenya's access to space. By co-hosting this important expert meeting with UN-USA, we seek more partnership and networks with global space industry players that will enable us realize our aspirations in space exploration and exploitation for our socio-economic development. Dear delegates, Kenya seeks to play its rightful and responsible role among the global space community. Accordingly, we are developing our legal and regulatory framework for space activities grounded on the foundational international space law. This will provide predictable procedures for authorization, licensing, and continuous monitoring of national space activities, registration of objects, liability and insurance, and other best practices. We believe the framework will help make Kenya a responsible actor in the peaceful uses of outer space. On this note, I want to express our appreciation to UN-USA, who have supported us in the endeavor through the Space Law for New Space Actors project and sponsoring of a technical advisory mission to Nairobi in April last year. We greatly appreciate that support. UN-USA has also supported us through other capacity building initiatives under the Access to Space for All track. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the running theme of this expert meeting, let me say that gender disparity is a long-standing and widespread issue experienced in diverse dimensions around the world. The disparities are manifested in many spheres, including political, cultural, social, education, economic, financial, technical, name it. While accounting for over 50% of the global population and constituting a big percentage of labor for socio-economic activities in many countries, women and girls are still an underrepresented lot in the space sector. Yet many women have ably demonstrated exceptional capabilities in STEM fields and space technologies, as is evidenced by the women experts attending this meeting today. But we still have a long, long way to go. That is why we identify with the Space for Women's vision of facilitating access to the benefits of space and STEM careers for women and girls around the world. Mainstreaming women and girls in the sector creates role models for future generations. We are highly encouraged and draw inspiration from trailblazers and leading lights in the space sector, especially those from minority communities, such as the first Black woman astronaut, Dr. Mae Jemison, and many others. In fact, and the director for KSA will tell you, we are so ambitious that we are hoping that in a number of partnerships that we are mulling over, that soon we will have the first female astronaut from no other space but Kenya. Dear delegates, The Bill of Rights under the Kenyan Constitution does recognize the rights and fundamental freedoms of all citizens and guarantees equality and freedom from discrimination on any ground, including gender. It also provides for women to, it also provides rights for women to equal opportunities in political, economic, cultural, and social spheres. Considering that STEM education provides the foundation for careers in tech space and is an essential driver of human ingenuity, our government is also making deliberate steps to enhance the uptake of STEM subjects by girls in our institutions of learning. This is a commitment we intend to fulfill even in our national space aspirations and in the implementation of our national space program to have more balance and inclusivity. As part of implementation of this commitment, Kenya has formally adopted the UN-USA Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit for the space sector developed during the last Space for Women expert meeting held in Montreal in Canada. The Kenya Space Agency has also taken the lead, as has been espoused here this morning, in developing the requisite strategies, and it is gratifying to note that some steps have already been undertaken, including funding opportunities for young women to attend space conferences and trainings, providing mentorship, training, and sensitization on space opportunities to young girls in primary and secondary schools, providing equal opportunity for internship to girls at the Kenya Space Agency, and ensuring gender balance in the agency workforce as per our constitutional thresholds. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be greatly remiss of me if I did not make special mention and acknowledge the great work being done by the I Mlango project team in Kenya. This is towards making access to quality education by children, particularly girls, in some of our remote and marginalized communities in Kenya. Through the revolutionary I Mlango EdTech platform, more than 180,000 children, 70,000 of whom are girls, spread over 240 schools in 4 counties in arid and semi-arid regions in Kenya, are receiving quality educational content on mathematics and literacy powered by space technologies. I'm glad to note that this initiative is being rolled out in other countries in our region. I hope this conference will go ahead to consider more meaningful and practical ways of making such initiatives sustainable and scaled up to reach more children, and especially girls in remote and marginalized communities, to bridge the gender gap in access to STEM education. I have this morning had occasion to talk to my counterpart in the Education Ministry, the CS for Education, just to ensure that the splendid job that we see the I Mlango team doing can really gain space within our mainstream education policies for sustainability, because we must have a clear visibility of a sustainable thread on how this will keep going. In closing, I note with satisfaction that this expert meeting will explore practical steps of integrating women in space activities and solutions so that women are able to increasingly participate and play a more significant role in innovations, research, and development of systems and solutions, as well as playing more central role in national space economies and the global space economy at large. We look forward to useful outcomes and recommendations from this Nairobi meeting that will inform our collective policies and strategies in integrating women in space activities and solutions. I wish you all fruitful and productive deliberations. And with this, it is my singular pleasure to declare the 5th Space for Women Expert Meeting 2024 officially open. Karibuni.
Thank you very much for those remarks. I kindly invite the guests and all the delegates for an official group photo. And then we will proceed for a coffee break and resume back by 10:15. Guests, you may proceed